Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer, and got a special guest today. Vanderbilt offensive coordinator Tim Beck has joined me. Thanks for joining me, man. And first of all, let's just talk about you. I want to talk about your journey here. Obviously, you've seen a lot of football at some different levels. Tell me kind of about your coaching journey and how you got here.
Yeah, so I appreciate you having me on, Joey. So I was at Pittsburgh State. I played in 85 and 86. I was a graduate assistant for 2 years in 87 and 88. And then we had a guy that was our linebacker coach that ended up leaving Pittsburgh State at the time, and his name was Gary Patterson, okay? And Gary Patterson left Pittsburgh State. Dennis Francione was our head coach. And Coach Francione obviously, went on to coach at New Mexico and TCU and Alabama and Texas A&M and had a great career. But Gary left, and he left kind of late in the spring, and it gave me an opportunity. Coach Francione hired me as my first full-time job to be able to work at my alma mater, so I stayed there and coached the linebackers there. That's how I got my start, and then. I eventually became the defensive coordinator, and Coach Keel and I were together. We actually won a national championship in '91, and he was the OC, and I coached on defense and defensive coordinator there in '92, and then in '93 was Coach Keel's last year, and then he left, and then Coach Broyles asked me to become the offensive coordinator. So then I was the offensive coordinator for like 16, 17 years, and then was fortunate enough to be named the head coach there. In our second year, we were able to win a national championship at Pittsburgh State, and then we had the COVID years, and then I was headed towards Virginia Tech, and that's when COVID hit, and then ended up going to TCU and working for Coach Patterson as a quarterback analyst. And worked there for 2 years, and then Coach Patterson got released, and then Coach Keel ended up getting the New Mexico State job and asked me to come with him and be the offensive coordinator at New Mexico State. We were there for 2 years. We were fortunate enough our first year to win a bowl game. Then our second year we got beaten another bowl game, so back-to-back bowl games with that program. And then at the end of that season is when Coach Lee contacted me and asked me if I was interested in applying for the offensive coordinator's job, and then the rest of that is over here. So have been very, very fortunate to be in one place for as long as I was, but then very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to coach at the FBS level, and then obviously in the SEC.
Sure. Obviously at a lower level, obviously had good roles, but did you ever envision it kind of turning into this, being on an SEC staff like this?
No, not at the time, because early on, I've got my wife and 4 children. I just felt like Pittsburgh, Kansas was a great place to raise a family, and so had a couple opportunities along the road to go to some different places, and just decided to stay in Pittsburgh, Kansas, try to get our kids through school and then get them into college. But I always stayed in really close contact with several of those people that were great mentors for me, and Jerry Keel absolutely was one of those guys that I learned a lot from him over the years, and then we were able to share ideas through the years, and then again get together at TCU was again a great experience for me.
Sure. If you were to stay at that level, was that something you would have been content with for the rest of your career, or did you always have eyes kind of here?
I mean, I always wanted to coach at the highest level possible, and so that that's a given. But I really enjoyed my time at Pittsburgh State, and it's one of those things where you feel like as a coach you're gonna try to hopefully touch a lot of people and help boys grow into men and raise them up and get them graduated and move them on. So I was definitely very happy coaching at Pittsburgh State, but I'm very fortunate and very blessed to have the opportunity to coach at this level.
You mentioned kind of molding lives and things along those lines. What are kind of your principles as a coach? What are you hoping to accomplish outside of obviously scheming and things along those lines?
Yeah, very, very simple in the fact that, when I became the head coach, we just didn't focus on wins and losses. We focused on trying to improve ourselves every day. And that's not just on the football field, but as young men being able to do the right things, and just simple things like, opening the door for people and open the door for women, and making sure we're super respectful to everybody. And I had a very, I listened to, one year I went to a coaching clinic and I listened to Gene Stallings, and he told me something that really stuck, and that was, you have to have a genuine appreciation for the contribution that everybody makes. And it's like when you watch a practice here at Vanderbilt, you see our support staff, you see all of our equipment people in one color of shirt, and all of our training staff in another color, and you see how many people it takes to run a quality program. And I want our players to understand that, because ultimately we're trying to get them to understand that at some point football is going to end, and they've got to grow up and be a productive citizen, and then be a quality husband and a great father. And if we get them to kind of understand those things and understand our values of what we believe in and what we want them to do, then we're going to find ways to make this world better.
For sure. I think Clark talks about similar things pretty often. Is that kind of something that drew you here?
Well, I tell you what, I didn't know Coach Lee until he flew to Las Cruces and came, and we sat down and visited for a long time. And I mean, it was very evident very quick that he's just a number one quality person. And so I'm so fortunate to have an opportunity to coach under him and learn from him. And he holds us to a high standard, and which I think is extremely important for not only our players but for our coaches as well.
For sure. I think you hold your offense to a pretty high standard as well, based on being on the practice field. I think you're a little more intense than I had thought originally. You can hear your voice a lot.
Well, it's one of those things, you have to be yourself, but the other part of that is coaching quarterbacks, you can't be high and low and up and down, and you've got to be pretty even keeled. And so, I like to think we demand a lot out of them during practice, but on game day, we're pretty cool, calm, and collected, and we hopefully that we've trained our quarterbacks to be able to handle those highs and lows during a game.
For sure. Obviously, with the quarterbacks, interesting storyline this fall with the quarterback competition. How are you specifically approaching all that?
So we really, after the spring and then in the summer, we've got Nate Johnson, Diego Pavia, Drew Dickey, and Blaze Berlowitz, and those four. We've got 8 quarterbacks, but those 4 have gotten all the reps, and the majority of the reps. And so as we continue to go through fall camp, then we kind of narrow it down to 3, and then we'll get to a point here, a couple weeks before our first game, where we'll limit probably 2 quarterbacks to get the majority of the reps. And it's just what you have to do, and it's one of those things where you hate it for the other guys that are competing for the job right now, but eventually we've got to really zero in and do what we have to do to get ready for Virginia Tech.
For sure. It feels like Johnson and Pavia, the 2 guys recruited out of the portal, I guess Berlowitz as well, all fit what you want to do with being able to run. And I just wanted to ask you generally, what does a Tim Beck quarterback look like? What are you looking for as you kind of look into quarterbacks in the portal or out of high school even? So,
offensively, we want to be balanced. And when I say balanced, that doesn't mean we're going to be 50-50 run pass, but we want to have the ability, if somebody's going to load the box on us, to be effective in the passing game. And the other thing is, if they're going to only play 6 in the box or 5 in the box, those types of things, we got to be able to run the ball effectively. And so we want a dual threat guy, and in other words, we want a guy that is mobile enough. He doesn't have to be a track star, but we want him to be mobile enough to be able to get us out of some certain situations when it's 3rd and 10 and they're dropping 8 and all of a sudden there's nothing open and you got to be able to run it and try to go get a first down. So we want somebody with enough mobility to be able to do that. We want somebody, I think I use Patrick Mahomes a lot as a guy that's maybe not the fastest guy, but his pocket awareness is off the charts. And so he knows when to slide left, slide right, step up. He knows when to get rid of the ball. He knows sometimes you just got to throw it away and go to the next series. And you can learn a lot from guys like him as you watch them. And so, there's a lot of people like that we study and look at and watch how they handle games and manage games. And we want our guys to work at continuing to get better every day, understanding the game more and more every day. And like we tell them, I'm still learning. I'm 60 years old, still learning the game. Coach Keel will say the same thing. We're still learning the game. Now there's a lot of football that we've done, we've been through, but there's a lot of different ways to move the ball offensively. We have to find out what our best, personnel is, and find ways to get the ball in those playmakers' hands and let them make plays, because it's a player's game, it's not a coach's game. And so we just got to try to put them in the right situation.
Are you a guy who is kind of catering the scheme towards the players you have, or are you getting players to fit into the scheme? That's kind of the age-old question for offensive coordinators, right?
That's exactly right. Now, as you start year one, no matter if you're starting a program from scratch or if you come into a situation, then obviously it's going to take a little time to be able to recruit all the guys at each spot that you want. So you have to be able to take the personnel that you have, understand who are the guys that can move the chains and get us first downs and give us an opportunity to win, and find ways to get them the ball. And sometimes it may not be exactly what you want to do offensively, but I feel like we're versatile enough that we can do different things different ways. And so, that's our job is to find ways to get those playmakers the ball.
That's the word that comes to mind when I think of your offense is versatility. It's
Yeah.
just there's a lot of different guys playing all over the place. There's a lot of different formations, things along those lines. If somebody hasn't seen your offense like we have in fall camp, how do you describe it to them, I guess to an average fan?
Well, we like to be able to use a lot of different personnel groups because we want to try to keep the defensive coordinator scrambling a little bit. And the other thing is we don't want to be like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to run the same exact plays that everybody else. We feel like we have to be a little bit different. To turn things around here, I think it's extremely important to be different so that on Sunday when the defensive coordinators start watching us on video, it's not the same thing they saw the week before. So versatility that way is right. Changing personnel groups. The thing that changing personnel groups, if you have quality personnel in all different areas, like it might be tight ends and receivers and tight end receivers and running backs. If you have players that you can play in all those different positions, changing personnel groups does a lot of things for you. Number one, you're able to take some people out and keep them fresh. And number two, it's really good for team morale because you end up playing a lot more players than maybe some other offenses would.
Mm-hmm. Along the versatility lines, Eli Stowers feels like that was a guy you had to have back, right?
We're really happy we got Eli because when he came to me at New Mexico State, he was he's a four-star quarterback coming out of high school. He was a great quarterback, and he made a lot of plays for us at quarterback. But we also saw his versatility and the things that he could do, and felt like, and I talked to Eli. When we were at New Mexico State, Eli never went to a receiver room or tight end room. He stayed in the quarterback room the whole time. And then the last, half or 3/4 of the season last year, you end up catching over 30 balls. So that just shows you, what type of athlete he is. And he's very explosive. He's big. He's strong. He can do things. He's learning how to play the position that he's playing right now. But he's a guy that I feel like his versatility just gives us an opportunity to do a lot of different things.
For sure. I know you've only got a couple more minutes, but last thing for me, where's the offense in relation to kind of where you want it to be week one? What are you looking for the rest of camp to improve? What do you like that you've seen so far?
Yeah, we're not near where we want to be yet, for sure. But the good thing is Coach Lee has given, they've done a lot of stuff against us defensively, which I think eventually in the long run will pay dividends. And I can't tell you enough about our offensive coaches. We have a absolute first class offensive line coach that has experience in the SEC. He's been a lot of different places with a lot of different dynamic offenses. So super happy to have Coach Klanakis with us. Coach Langford, our running back coach, is another one that just a great coach, one of the best human beings in the world. Garrett Altman is my quarterback analyst, and he's the smartest guy probably we have. I mean, he is absolutely an A+. Obviously, having Jerry Kuehl with us is another advantage for us. So we have a lot of things going, and then we've got Coach Bailey coaching receivers, and then Coach Flats and both Coach Leapak do a great job with our tight ends. So we're blessed to have a really good group that works together. Obviously, there's going to be some tough times, and those tough times, it's important to pull people together and not stray away from what we're doing. And we just got to keep our eyes and focus on what we're doing and improving each and every week and each and every day. And then the wins will come. The wins will come. But we got to focus on continually getting better every day.
For sure. And it also seems like that staff has a lot of autonomy over the offense as well. That seems like a big thing. That's kind of a message too.
Absolutely. We want all of our guys to have ownership. We don't want, I'm not an offensive coordinator that's not going to listen to anybody else because we're going to do it my way and only my way. Every one of those guys are smarter guys than I am, and so what I'm good at is listening to all the ideas, knowing what we can implement and what we can kind of plug into what we're doing that will work. And but all of our guys have great ideas that they bring to the table every single day, and so we try to piece all that together and then go out there and get after it.
For sure. I appreciate taking the time.